North Africa, the land of beauty and mystery. Spanning from the peaks of the Atlas to the black lands of the Nile banks, lies a people with history as old as time and a heritage as diverse as its people. And these people are the very topic of this video. So, when people think of Africans, what kind of people comes to your mind? But do you know that there is a part of Africa where people can look dramatically different and can be indigenous to the continent, in which many people in the American Afro-talk sphere like to negate their indigenous status, and simply calling them Arab invaders. So, let me clarify something. There is a thing called assimilation. If you don't know what assimilation simply is the process by which individuals or groups adopt and absorb the cultural, social, and linguistic norms and practices of a dominant or host culture. It involves the integration of newcomers into the prevailing cultural framework, often leading to a loss or modification of their original cultural identity. And in the case of North Africans, this is exactly what happened. There is a reason why they identify as Arabs today. It's because of the assimilation, but their ancestors lived in the land since the late Paleolithic and early Neolithic periods. Africa is a very diverse continent, and this is a part 3 of exploring and appreciating the beautiful diversity of its sentient beings, and in which in the previous video I went across the regions of sub-Saharan Africa and showing its diverse ethnic groups, but rather than simplistically categorizing the groups on a linguistic basis as I did in my early video, I devised a more accurate approach that acknowledges the diverse array of phenotypes present in the region. And I'm planning to do the same for this video. So, everybody knows that North Africa is linguistically and culturally divided by Arabs and their diverse dialects and identities, the Amazigh, and there are also the Copts and the diverse Sahrawi people across the Sahara Desert. But phenotypes are different. Two Amazighen, according to region, might look dramatically different, and also two North African Arabs, for example, the Haratin, who had the Paleolithic Khoisanid ancestor but speak and identify as Arab, shares their same identity with the Egyptian Arabs, whose famous ancestors were the ones who built the pyramids. So, can you see what's happening? That's why I'm making this video, to show you, dear viewer, how North Africans look like in time immemorial before the Arab conquest. And this is why I'll be using phenotypes. And if you are wondering what is a phenotype, well, a phenotype refers to the observable characteristics of an organism resulting to the interactions between its genetic makeup, such as genotype, and the environment. And it encompasses various components including morphology, which is the physical structure and appearance of an organism, such as its size, height, skin color, and other visible features. So, we're going to talk about the morphological phenotypes, and before I begin, this is a part 1 of a 2-part video series in which I'll talk about North Africans. And in this video, I'll talk about the North Africans along the Mediterranean coast. And in the next video, I'll talk about the North Africans of the Sahara, or the Sahrawi, because the diversity of North Africans is too much for one video only. And it will take me 2 or 3 weeks to complete this video. So let's begin with the descendants of a famous ancient civilization. An Orientalid Mediterranean variety that represents a distinct type commonly found in the lower Nile Valley of Egypt. The purest expression of this type can be observed from the ancient Egyptian mummies to the modern Egyptian fellahin and the Copts. High frequencies can also occur among Egyptian Muslims, while lower frequencies can be among North Sudanese and Libyans. Physically, individuals belonging to the Egyptid variety typically have light brown skin with yellowish tint and wavy or curly black hair. They possess a medium height and fall within the mesomorph to ectomorph body types, with a mesoscalic build. Their skulls are dolichocephalic, often displaying an orthochronic shape. The eyes of the individuals with this variety are generally large, and their mouths are generally wide. The nose tends to be leptorine, sometimes with a convex shape. Overall, the features of the Egyptid variety exhibit a certain degree of robustness, often appearing intermediate between proper Orientalid and Berberid types. The Trans-Mediterranean subtype represents a widespread and influential human classification, displaying numerous morphological features that fall between the Euro-Africanid and Glacial Mediterranean types. It is believed to be a gracilized version of the Euro-Africanid types that spread westward through the ancient migration, some of which occurred as early as antiquity, such as those associated with the Phoenicians. Today, the Mediterranean subtype is a common throughout North Africa, spanning from Morocco to Egypt, with particularly high concentration observed in Tunisia and Algeria. It is also found in Western Arabia, Southern Iberia, and occasionally in regions like Sicily, Sardinia, the Canary Islands, and other parts of Southern Europe. Physically, individuals belonging to the Mediterranean subtype typically possess a light or sometimes medium yellowish brown skin. Their hair ranges from straight to curly and is usually brown or black, often curlier than what is typically observed in European Mediterraneans. They tend to have a medium height and fall within the mesoscalic body type, leaning towards ectomorphy. Their skulls are dolicho-mesocephalic, mildly hypsicranic, meaning their vault is somewhat rounded, and exhibit an oval or often long face shape. The eyes are relatively large and the nose is straight. They also have a hyperleptorrhine, which is they have a high nose bridge. And the facial features of the Mediterranean subtype are relatively soft and the forehead is slightly sloped. This is a North African steppe type, is a distinct human classification that is commonly considered part of the Orientalid category. While the Arab liberation during the 7th and 11th centuries contributed to the increased presence of the Orientalid element in Africa, this type actually results from much earlier migration that has been present since ancient times. Even among the ancient Libyan Gramantes, it remains prevalent across the steppes of Libya, Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco, occasionally extending to Algeria, the Sahara, and even Andalusia. Physically, individuals belonging to the North African steppe type typically have light brown skin and often possess wavy black hair. They tend to be rather tall and exhibit a brachymesoscalic body type, leaning towards ectomorphy. Their skulls are dolichocephalic and cameocranic, with a round occiput which is back of the skull. Their faces are long with dark eyes and big mouth. Their nose is often convex, hyperleptorrhine, which is having a high nose bridge, and prominent. The interorbital distance, which is the space between the eyes, is relatively small. Overall, the features of the North African steppe type are much finer in appearance compared to the barbaric type. The Proto-Atlanto Mediterranean type is a human classification that was initially named after the Berbers and the North African Barbary region. It is associated with Paleolithic types that migrated from West Asia in ancient times. This type is present in modern Berber or Amazigh populations such as the Rifians, Kabyles, Shilha, and Chawi, as well as other North African groups, including the Imrad Tuaregs and the indigenous people of the Canary Islands. It is also found as a minority type in other parts of Europe, particularly in South Iberia and Perigord, as well as in Turkey. Physically, phenotypically, individuals belonging to this Proto-Atlanto Mediterranean type typically have light to medium brown skin and curly wavy brown to black hair. They tend to be rather short in stature and exhibit a mesoscalic body type, ranging from meso to endomorphic. Their skulls are dolichocephalic and chemi-orthochronic, meaning the vault is somewhat rounded. The noses are mildly leptorrhine, sometimes mesorrhine, and often displays a depressed nose bridge. Their faces are coarse and wide, characterized by significant zygomatic arches. The interorbital distance, which is the space between the eyes, is relatively wide. And in some cases, individuals with the Proto-Atlanto Mediterranean type might have slanting or pseudo-mongoloid eyes. Their jaws are heavy and angular with prominent arches. So the next phenotype looks Nordic but isn't European, so brace yourself for indigenous blonde Africans. This indigenous Maghrebi type is a distinct group that exhibits similarities to both Cro-Magnons and North Europeans. This similarity is likely a result of convergent evolution, where pre-Neolithic North Africans adapted to the cloudy mountain regions similar to northern climates. Historically, the Maghrebi type was present in certain areas of the Canary Islands, particularly in Gomera, Tenerife, also known as the Gaunches, and the Gran Canaria. These regions experienced significant mixing over time, leading to a diverse population on the islands today. The Maghrebi type is also found among Berbers, specifically among Rifians, Kabyles, some Tunisian Berbers, and in western Libya such as the Gaido and the Nalut Berbers. And a few can be found among Tunisian Arab Berbers. Physically, individuals belonging to the Maghrebi type have fair skin, wavy reddish brown or blonde hair. Their eye color are diverse. They tend to be tall with a mesoscalic ectomorph to mesomorph body type. Their skulls are mesocephalic and chemi-orthochronic, relatively large-headed. The nose is mildly leptorine, and the face is broad, sometimes slightly low, with a large jaw, significant suboptical arches, and occasionally mild prognathy. Their occiput is round and their body hair is modest. This Atlanto-Mediterranean prototype is a distinct human classification that has a relatively ancient origin and can be traced back to early megalith builders of both Europe, North Africa, and West Asia. It has spread across the Mediterranean regions from the Mesolithic period until antiquity. Today, it is commonly found in various regions, including North Algeria, Morocco, and the Canary Islands, but also in Portugal, eastern Spain, such as Valencia, Liguria, western Switzerland, Wales, Croatia, and in Mesopotamia, in which the presence of the Atlanto-Mediterranean type is more diluted, transitioning towards the Proto-Iranian type. Physically, individuals belonging to the Atlanto-Mediterranean prototype typically have light brown skin, and their hair ranges from straight to curly, which usually being dark brown. They are generally rather tall and exhibit an ecto to mesomorphic body type, with a branchy mesoscalic skeletal structure. Their skulls are dolichocephalic and mildly hypsicranic, meaning the vault is somewhat rounded. The nose is predominantly straight but may occasionally be depressed and leptorine or having a high bridge. The faces is coarse and long with deep-set eyes, and cheekbones are often wide. And the presence of significant brow ridges and mild prognathy, which is the jutting forwards of the jaw, is common among individuals of this type. This is the most brachycephalic Maghrebi type, exhibits close morphological similarities to alpines and to a lesser extent to Armenids and Berberids. However, it is not directly related to other alpines such as the European Alpinid or Eastern Alpinid, but rather the result of a similar adaptation. This particular type is commonly found in the Atlas Mountains of Algeria and Tunisia, with a subvariety existing on the island of Djerba. It also extends in lower frequencies across Libya, Egypt, and Morocco. Typically, individuals belonging to this Maghrebi type have light brown skin and straight or wavy brown to black hair, which is usually dark but sometimes can be blonde, brown, or red. Their eye color is typically dark, but it can be diverse. They have a medium height and a mesoscalic endomorph body type. Their skulls are rather brachycephalic and orthochronic, with a leptorine straight or slightly convex nose. The facial features of this Maghrebi type are more angular than those found in other alpinids, and they have deep-set eyes. So, these are the faces of North Africa before the Arab liberation of the region from the brutal Roman Empire. These people are indigenous to the area, and these indigenous phenotypes are found only in North Africa, except the transcontinental phenotypes, of course, such as the Euro-Africanids. And the last phenotype who heavily influenced the region in the Middle Ages has a phenotype that originated from the sons of Arabia and made their way to heavily spread across North Africa through huge waves of migration. This phenotype is the noble Arabid phenotype. This is an Oriental proper and is a prominent human classification that is most commonly found in the Arabian Peninsula, often associated with Semitic languages. Originally, this type was restricted to the Arabian region. However, ancient migrations via the Bedouins to North Africa before Islam and the later Islamic expansion brought it into North Africa, where it became heavily mixed with other North African phenotypes. But in North Africa, it can be found in high frequencies in Tunisia and Libya and among the Hashemite clans and other clans that can trace their roots from the Gulf. The conquerors and the Arab tradesmen further spread the Orientalid type across the Mediterranean. Parts of East Africa, India, Indonesia, and even Jews brought it to Europe. Physically, individuals belonging to the Orientalid type typically have light, sometimes medium brown skin. Their hair is wavy or curly and ranges from black to dark brown. They have a medium height to tall height and exhibit a mesoscalic body type, leaning towards ectomorphy. Their skulls are dolichomesocephalic, chamaicranic, and characterized by a rather small rhomboid-shaped head with a protruding occiput, which is the back of the skull. Their noses are slightly convex and hyperlopterine, meaning it has a high bridge. The eyes are large, deep and almond-shaped, and their midface are prominent. Mostly high cheekbones and lips are full. Additionally, individuals of the Orientalid type tend to have abundant body hair. That's it for today's video. The next part is coming soon, God willing. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash all the buttons. And thank you very much for watching. And as always, stay curious.